When the word ceratopsian comes to mind, you usually would probably think of the mighty three-horned Triceratops, and many others of its kind from Diabloceratops to Nasutoceratops. And I wouldn't even be surprised about that, because those are actually some pretty cool dinos. But usually when I think of ceratopsians, Styracosaurus is the one to come to mind. Mostly because its striking frill and nasal horn really makes you wonder how cool this animal is. Hello, welcome back to another JurassicJune video. I am Alexander, or Lizard Gaming, and we will be talking about Styracosaurus. For a lot of people, this would actually probably be their #1 favorite, or somewhere in the upper echelons of their favorite dinosaurs. But this animal is probably one of the most interesting I have ever seen. And even by reading it, there's not a lot of information. I will do my darndest to actually go over this animal in its entirety. The first ever fossil remains of Styracosaurus were found in Alberta, Canada by Charles Sternberg from an area simply known as Dinosaur Provincial Park in a formation simply just titled Dinosaur Park Formation. In the same year, Lawrence Lamb named it Styracosaurus. And the quarry was revisited in 1935 by the Royal Ontario Museum, who found more pieces, a jaw, and a more complete skeleton. The fossil was finally named Styracosaurus albertiensis, named after the province of Alberta, Canada. And within the time frame of finding more specimens of Styracosaurus, we have two formations that we can find these animals in: Dinosaur Park Formation and Two Medicine Formation, which have very unique environmental geological information that we know. In fact, the paleo environment of Two Medicine Formation would have been a massive semi-arid rain shadow, while Dinosaur Park Formation would have been more of a floodplains or a wetlands, and they can usually tell by this from organic rich mudstone that was found in the location. And with the dating of the formations, it would have been around 75 million years to 74 million years of the fossil age discoveries. There were several other species that were assigned to Styracosaurus, such as Ovidus, Mackellii, and Borealis, and a few that were actually discovered during the Bone Wars by Edward Drinker Cope that were assigned under a different, more dubious genera, but have been later reclassified. Styracosaurus ovidus was actually the one discovered in Two Medicine Formation in Montana. It was described by Charles Whitney Gilmore in 1930. And in 1986, there was some material that was re-looked at around 2010 by Andrew McDonald and John Horner, yes, that John Horner, to describe another Styracosaurus, and this would be under ovidus. And from the materials they were looking at, they tried putting it under a new genus of Rubeosaurus and try and name it to Rubeosaurus ovidus rather than the original Styracosaurus ovidus, which Rubeosaurus is dubious at best. The main reason why they thought it would have to be put under a new genus phylogenetically is they did not think it had any similarities to Styracosaurus albertiensis. They thought it was a completely different clade, which included Pachyrhinosaurus and Ankylosaurus, thus giving it a new genus. Thankfully, later in the year of 2020, they actually re-looked at Rubeosaurus and abandoned its name due to some of the similarities to Styracosaurus albertiensis and moved it from Rubeosaurus ovidus to Styracosaurus ovidus, thus making the second main species of Styracosaurus. For both species of albertiensis and ovidus, individuals would usually range from 5 to 6 meters in length, so about 18 to 20 feet in length, and would usually stand about 1.8 meters tall, so roughly about 6 feet tall. And individuals of that size would usually be around 2 to 3 tons, so 1.8 to 2.7 metric tons. Overall, this animal would actually be pretty large, comparable to a human being. And even with its weight, it has practically the same weight ratio as a hippo or a rhinoceros. Styracosaurus, like other ceratopsians, had a dental battery. Their teeth didn't grind, but it sliced food. Some scientists suggest that Styracosaurus and its relatives ate palms and cycads, while others have suggested ferns. They may have been able to knock down taller plants with their horns and beaks, or mostly their bulk like modern elephants. Now we might as well talk about the frill and the nose horn of Styracosaurus and what makes this probably one of the most unique ceratopsians of its kind. But we gotta talk about the difference between Centrosaurin and Chasmosaurine. Centrosaurin had shorter, relatively rounder or squared frills, often adorned with large spikes or hooks, while Chasmosaurines are larger and more elongated, often with large fenestrae or openings in the bone that is usually covered in skin in real life. There's a few other differences, such as Chasmosaurines have longer brow horns, while Centrosaurines hardly have any proper brow horns. Centrosaurines also had longer nasal horns, while Chasmosaurines had shorter nasal horns. But a lot of these differences usually chalk up to which one it usually belongs under by frill. Like a good example is Pseudoceratops would obviously be put under Centrosaurine with some of these rules. That being said, the large nasal horn of Styracosaurus is the most distinctive facial feature of the animal. In fact, the most distinctive feature in any dinosaurian animal, along with its frill having these beautiful spikes coming from the upper ornamentation of the frill itself. Scientists have proposed that the open fenestrae of the frill may have been used to circulate blood and cool the animal in hot, arid environments, as well as display and other identifiers for the animal to identify its species, identify its sex. It was probably a multi-purpose tool. Paleontologists also originally thought that Styracosaurus, like Triceratops, used its frill as a form of defense. Styracosaurus's open fenestrae may actually be more of a hindrance to it in combat against predators. But with the frill horns of Styracosaurus, it is possible to use those as a defense. But instead of that, it may have been used for interspecies combat, basically a form of jousting with its large nasal horn. What's one of the most interesting features about Styracosaurus is the horns on the frill actually can be asymmetrical. A Styracosaurus individual had its horns on its frill show that it is very possible to have asymmetry in the horns, similar to like modern deer, where horns or antlers will vary depending on the individual. And just like modern day ungulates, ceratopsians like Styracosaurus would have had a keratin sheath protecting the nasal horn and the frill horns, which probably helped color display because keratin in dinosaurs would have been similar to like keratin in birds. The predators that would have hunted Styracosaurus most likely were a group of tyrannosaurids, specifically Gorgosaurus and Displetosaurus, two very prominent predators of the region. These large theropod dinosaurs had enough power to hunt for a lot of different ceratopsians in the area, included Styracosaurus. The defensive strategy of Styracosaurus would have had its distinctive frill spikes protecting its neck and its large nasal horn as basically a weapon to potentially deter Gorgosaurus and Displetosaurus. Like other ceratopsians, this dinosaur may have been a herd animal traveling in large groups, as suggested by bone beds in Arizona, which would have also played a key role in defense against predation. Other animals that would have lived alongside Styracosaurus would have been hadrosaurs like Parasaurolophus and Lambeosaurus, and armored dinosaurs like Edmontonia and Euphocephalus, and with the location being more of a marine, floodplain, swampy environment, and semi-arid as well, it wouldn't be too much to think that there would be crocodiles, lizards, turtles, and other animals that would live in these environments. Whoa, okay, that was a lot of information to go through. In fact, actually, it was a lot more than I did for the Allosaurus video. Holy cow. I hope you enjoyed the video. This took me a lot of time to work with. And there are some other things that I probably didn't go over, and some of you might actually be able to tell me in the comments. And there's some other things like some media references. Obviously, you've seen some Jurassic World Evolution 2 clips along with Prehistoric Kingdom. Probably the first time I was ever like fully introduced to this animal would have been in some DK encyclopedia books or Zoo Tycoon. So, hope you all enjoyed the video. And I only have like one video left. So anyways, hope you enjoyed. And as always, safe travels everyone. Goodbye.